Well, the news that Congressman Anthony Weiner exchanged online messages with a 17-year-old girl is raising questions about the legality of talking to kids on social media sites. When do online conversations with minors cross any legal lines? And how private are the messages on Twitter and other social networks that you put out there? Joining us now to answer some of those questions is Nigam. He is an online security expert and a former federal prosecutor for internet crimes against children. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Shannon.
All right, so let's talk about this latest situation. From what we understand from the girl and her family, nothing inappropriate was done, no inappropriate exchanges or conversations with the congressman. But where do people get in trouble when we're talking about minors and online communications?
Right, that's absolutely clear so far. There's nothing inappropriate in what we've seen with Congressman Weiner. But in general, if there's an adult talking to a minor online, and that turns into sexually explicit conversation where they're trying to exchange photos. For example, the adult says, hey, send me a topless photo. Then you start looking into federal crimes and even state crimes that can apply.
What about when we have conversations that appear to be between consenting adults? Is explicit material okay there as long as both sides are consenting?
When you're talking about adults, that's a completely different scenario than versus minors. Adults can do what they want to do amongst themselves as long as they're consenting. Neither should be worried about the legality of it. It's a different thing on the reputation side.
Okay, so let's talk about the fact that, a lot of us out there, we've got Twitter, we've got Facebook, you send messages back and forth. How much do people need to know? I mean, how private are your messages that you put out there? Do they linger somewhere in cyberspace?
Well, I think one of the things that's coming out of this is there may be a consumer panic of, uh-oh, cops can have access to anything and there's things that are available and the company's going to disclose it. Shannon, the reality is there's lots of privacy laws in place that strongly govern what law enforcement can get and what, for that matter, Twitter or Facebook can disclose. And both law enforcement and the private industry are very focused on protecting consumer privacy. But the issue that often happens is when you send something to somebody, that person can disclose all they want. So whether or not the company does it or law enforcement does it through legal process, if the individual wants to disclose, you can still have that become public. So in that sense, you have to treat it as though it's going to be public unless you have full faith that your friend or the person you're sending to is going to maintain the privacy that you want them to.
All right, so if you wouldn't broadcast it to the world, be prepared. Don't broadcast it, I guess, in private messages either. Nigam, thank you so much for the advice.
Thanks for having me.